Thanks, Amy. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the session titled Strategy to Impact, Prioritizing Strategic Policy Engagement. In this session, we will explore a framework to help participants identify which policy issues to prioritize and how to focus their education efforts where they can have the greatest impact. I'm happy to introduce today's speakers. Johnny Calebs has worked in the disabilities field since 1988 and joined Kentucky's Commonwealth Council on Developmental Disabilities as the Executive Director in 2023. Austin Nugent is the Public Policy Coordinator for Kentucky's Commonwealth Council on Developmental Disabilities. Allison McCain serves as Deputy Director of the Kansas Council on Developmental Disabilities and leads the Health Equity and Outcomes Coalition. Sarah Hart-Weir is the Executive Director of the Kansas Council on Developmental Disabilities and a nationally recognized disability policy leader. Josh Alters is Vice Chair of the Kansas Council on Developmental Disabilities and an active leader in the disability community. And finally, Tina Wiseman, who has 33 years of experience in the human service field, primarily advocating for people with developmental disabilities. She is currently the Executive Director of the West Virginia Developmental Disabilities Council. And now I'm going to hand it over to the amazing Cheryl to start our ITAC presentation.
Thanks so much, Vanessa. One of the things that we really want to try to do today is to just give you some foundational information before our panelists bring you some great information. And one of the things was to really make sure that we all had a good understanding between education, advocacy, influence, and lobbying. So this information will help council members and staff quickly distinguish between allowable activities and restricted lobbying, which is especially important when using federal funds. There is a one-question test, so if you keep this in the back of your mind as we move through the next slides, the one-question test is, are we asking someone to take a specific action on a specific piece of policy? This question really determines everything. If you answer the question yes, you're likely in lobbying territory, and so you want to put up the little caution flag and check again and make sure you stay clear if you're using your federal funds. So education is all about informing. It's usually facts only, no opinion, no ask. It's the safest category. It's really purely informational, but it is the foundation for all other work. A good example is 20% of people lack access to transportation. Going to be a different number, higher, 20% of people with IDD lack access to transportation. The next area is advocacy. And so advocacy communicates importance and urgency, but it really does stop short of naming a specific policy action. So councils typically take a position on an issue. They focus on the values for the IDD community, the impact that a particular issue has on the developmental disability community. But there's usually no specific policy ask. An example could be people with developmental disabilities deserve reliable transportation. So it does indicate care. The next area is influence. Influence is where many policy conversations live. So you really are trying to shape thinking without absolutely explicitly telling someone how to vote or act. So it shapes, it suggests a solution or a direction. Policy may be referenced in your conversation, but there's no direct ask. So an example could be increasing transportation funding would improve employment outcomes for people with developmental disabilities. And then finally, we have the big red button here, lobbying. It's the highest risk category. It means there is a direct ask that is tied to a specific piece of legislation or a specific policy decision. Know that this category is restricted. If you're using federal funds, this is a big no. So if you are asking for a specific action, such as vote for something, fund something, oppose something on a specific policy, a bill, a budget, a regulation, and it's a direct request, that is most likely going to be lobbying. And so an example would be vote yes on House Bill 123. So the quick guide for you all is inform is education. Caring about something is advocacy. Shaping means influencing, and an ask is lobbying. We do have a wonderful resource that you all can download and share with your council members. You can share with coalitions, however you want to use it. And it does break down the difference between advocacy, influence, education, lobbying. And so, the going back to the key question, am I asking someone to take a specific action on a specific policy? So stay clear of that with your federal dollars. Amy?
Thanks, Cheryl. So now I'm going to hand it over to Johnny Calebs and Austin Nugent from the Kentucky Council, and they're going to talk to us about prioritizing strategic policy engagement.
Hey, thanks, Amy. I'm Johnny Calebs, Executive Director of Kentucky's Commonwealth Council on Developmental Disabilities. And Austin, you on yet? You want to introduce
Yeah.
yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Austin Nugent. I'm the public policy coordinator, and I'm a woman in my early 30s with long brown hair that is currently pulled back in a bun. I'm wearing a colorful scarf today, and I'm presenting from my home office.
All right, thank you. We're going to walk you through three different policy tools today. So before we do that, some housekeeping. We're going to share these three tools and have some discussion about them. These tools are going to help your council prioritize policy engagement. And a disclaimer here: these are not Kentucky products. They're not from our council, or probably not even from Kentucky. I don't know, but they are useful tools, and I'm looking forward to discussing those with you. We're not going to discuss the what. So this is more about a process that you can work through. So just ask that you not discuss policy-related issues during the session.
And on
Next
the
slide.
Yep, thank you. And so we know policy issues, there's a lot of them, and we're constantly calling for our attention, but we have to remember if everything is a priority, nothing is. So we cannot say yes to everything. And really today, these tools are focused on giving your all's council permission to say no to policy issues while prioritizing the issues you all feel is most important to your state and council. Next slide, please.
So while we are going through this exercise and looking at these tools, I'd just like to ask you to think about your own state. And again, we're not going to be using specific policy examples. We're just walking you through the process using these three different tools. So as we work through those and highlight the issues in each state. that you're considering engaging on. Or maybe you already have, but you could apply that to some of these tools as we walk through them. So again, uh, we're not going to discuss any particular policy, and we ask that you don't ask specific policy questions in the chat, as we won't be able to address those. So this is more about process and using tools that can help your council determine whether or not they want to engage in a particular issue. Next slide.
So
Awesome.
the first resource is a screening checklist that allows you to consider a policy-related issue through 8 filters to ultimately determine if your council should take action on it. These slides will be available, so for sake of time, I'm not going to give a detailed visual description of each of the tools, but there is a QR code and link to access each of the resources online. So on the next slide, what you're going to do as you go through the 8 filters, you're going to rate each of them. And so for each filter, you will rate the issue 0 to 3, with 3 being the strongest or a higher level of need or priority. And then once you've gone through the 8 filters, you're going to add up your score, and that's going to help you determine the level of engagement or action you should take. And you'll utilize the policy engagement ladder tool, which we'll discuss in a little bit, to help you determine how much or what level of engagement to really take and what that will look like for your council. So on the next slide, the 8 filters are mission alignment. Does it align with your mission? 2, state plan connection. Is it tied to your state plan? 3, impact potential. Will engagement create systems change? Council authority. Is this within your role to play? Timing and opportunity. Is this the right time to engage? Stakeholder voice. Do those effective support engagement in the policy issue? Resources and capacity. Does your council have the resources to engage, and at what level? And then partnership potential. Can you collaborate on this issue with other organizations, either within the disability community or beyond? So that's the first tool. Again, very brief, but Johnny's going to talk about another tool in a little bit more in depth.
Sure. This is a policy screening and engagement tool. Lots of colors, very visual.
Give me just a second. I'm also working on pulling up the Word document version of a checklist.
Thank you, Amy.
See.
So Amy's going to provide, thank you, this Word document, which is the same as the very colorful image that you just saw. It's a policy screening and engagement tool. But I wanted to walk you through this because it can be a hands-on, something you can print out, sit across the table from council members with, and go step by step and look at all of the issues, all of the perspectives, and make a determination about whether to engage or not. So let's get started. There are 8 areas, 7 on the graph, but there's a final one on here just for documentation. So basically 7 areas we're going to walk through on this. And the purpose is to assess policy opportunities and guide strategic engagement aligned with council priorities, impact goals, and federal requirements. So the first item is policy overview. Name the issue, whatever it may be. Again, I asked you to think about an issue that you've recently tackled in your state or that is bubbling up. So you can think about that. What would you call it? Does it have a common name to go by, one that's going to be known to people? What's the source of it? Is it a bill, a regulation, or an initiative? What stage is it in? Is it just now rising to the surface? Is it in draft form? Uh, Active, maybe it's already been passed and you need to take action. Um, Next, who is the lead agency or body? Uh, Align with council priorities. And you have options yes, no, or partially. Um, I think most councils have legislative priorities that your council votes on and establishes. So you can kind of measure it against those and see if it aligns. And then also, I would suggest, first of all, does it align with your mission as the council, uh, your council's mission? Make sure it doesn't conflict in any way with that. Is it connected to your 5-year plan goals? This has up to 5 goals listed. I know we've been advised maybe you don't want to have that many, or certainly beyond 5. So, does the issue connect to one of your plan goals? That's important. Also, target population impacted. Does it impact people with developmental disabilities? I feel like everything we do should uh, impact individuals with developmental disabilities. And if you if it impacts families, service providers, and systems or infrastructure in a positive way, creates change in a positive way, then it will also positively impact folks with developmental disabilities. So it's important to look at that. And then geographic scope. Are you looking at a statewide issue or regional or local? The third area is impact assessment, high, medium, or low. System, a type of impact. Is it systems change, capacity building, direct services, advocacy, representation? And then some key questions to look at. Does this improve access, inclusion, or outcomes, which is central to what our work is about? Does it improve, does it remove barriers or even reduce a barrier? Uh, and also look at unintended consequences. Does it create new ones? Sometimes, at the best of intentions, we jump in only to find out later that we thought we were helping, but instead we created a new problem or a new barrier. So we never want to do that. So it's important to take a close look at that. Who benefits and who may be left out. And then there's a place just to list a summary of the expected impact. What do you think or hope will happen if you do engage on this issue as a council? Number 4, risk and considerations. The first one is legal and compliance concerns. And thank you, Cheryl, for laying the groundwork as we started this session. Obviously, the big one, legally and compliance-wise, is lobbying. We can walk right up to the lobbying line, but don't cross it, don't step on it. We are prohibited from using federal dollars for lobbying purposes, obviously. And then 2, another part of compliance, I think, is allowed expenditures. Whatever you're thinking about doing or whatever engagement you're contemplating, does it take money and are you allowed to use that money for, uh, what you think you can? There are rules around what we can spend money on. Funding implications. Does it cost anything to engage in this issue? And if so, how much? And do you have the money left to do it? So, uh, sometimes timing is critical. If you've already obligated your funds for the year and something comes up you would like to engage in, but it costs money, maybe you can't do that at this time. Um, Political sensitivity, uh, disability is not a partisan issue, but uh, let's be real, state politics have to be considered depending on where you live and what the issue is. So take that into consideration, have a conversation about it. Stakeholder opposition, who might that be and why? And is there a way to compromise or have discussion with those who may oppose? And then implementation challenges. That could be anything from, are you a big state, a little state, if you're covering a statewide uh, uh, issue or challenge. And then also, do you have the capacity to take this on right now? Uh, Next, number 5, engagement strategy. Recommended levels of engagement. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because we're going to tackle this in the
I think we lost him. I can jump in real quick. This is Austin. So moving on, the fifth thing you want to consider is the engagement strategy, and the level of engagement as well as the potential actions around it. We'll go over this in a little bit more detail with the next tool. And then moving on, you want to think about your stakeholders. So stakeholder mapping, who are the key stakeholders? As well as who are allies as well as opposition. Something I've always a mentor toward me very early on in my career is the people who are going to oppose your where you're coming from are just as important, if not more important, than the people who are going to back you and support you and be your allies. Because you need to understand where they're coming from so that you can think about how you inform and educate and advocate. So then thinking again, so you go through all of that, and then now you need to make your decision and determine your next step. So with that, you need to obviously consult your council. So the council acts and decision is to proceed. Do they agree to proceed, to not engage, or reassess later? And then some information for again for the just administrative purposes, and then determining your next step, and then some just documentation and tracking at the very end. Again, for administrative purposes, good to keep track of things and have a paper trail. So
Thank
with
you, Austin. I
that,
think you stepped in for me.
yes, Johnny Zach, yay.
I lost my. Yeah, I disconnected. Sorry. Is there anything else I need to go back and cover on that?
No, I think we're good, and we can go back to the slides and jump into the policy engagement ladder, which is your
Thank
slide.
you. Sorry about that. All right. This is the policy engagement ladder I was referring to uh, earlier, and this is a good visual here, and it just Austin's going to cover the first part, but you can see it's just an escalation ladder from 1 through 5, and it's based on scoring that you did on those 8 early filters that Austin talked about. So we're going to walk you through that. So next slide, Austin.
Yeah, so for the priority areas or the policy areas that you link maybe aren't necessarily priority right now, but you may need to keep tabs on. That would put you at a engagement around awareness and monitoring. So tracking the issue closely, maybe reviewing reports that are being shared about this particular issue. And then maybe just sharing information, keeping council members informed or stakeholders or partners. So you're engaging, but on that lower level. So you're more so just keeping awareness, but not utilizing a bunch of your resources so that you can focus again on prioritize other policy issues as needed. And then on the next slide, you may need, depending on, again, your screening score in the policy, and again, all of those different factors, you may need to increase your engagement just a little bit more. And so that's really going to be centered around learning and exploration. So thinking about issuing recommendations, partners working separately. So you may not be having those like coalition or committee meetings or thinking about it, but partners, different partners are also engaged in the issue. And then shared learning would also be helpful. So whether it's different staff members or council members, just learning about different aspects of the issue, or again, learning from partners. Moving up in the level engagement, this is where you're going to probably be like your mid-tier level of engagement. So you're engaged a fair amount, but you're not, again, utilizing all of your resources on this issue. And so that's really going to be centered around convening and educating. So maybe you're hosting public forums, you're educating stakeholders, or you're facilitating cross-agency dialogue. So bringing those partners together to have conversations and making sure everyone's on the same page and learning from one another. And then the next slide.
So this is level 4, almost to the top. And excuse me, this one indicates something more serious and something that the council wants to put its resources into. So if your filter score that Austin went over initially is between 19 and 24, it indicates more effort is needed to engage in this particular issue for level 4 and 5. So you might issue recommendations and do a policy analysis. I know some councils may put out white papers from time to time on a particular issue that the council is concerned about, and also agency collaboration. This ideally would involve the DD network, so you can everyone's be singing from the same sheet of music, using your resources together to amplify your voice on the matter. Could also uh, potentially work with Centers for Independent Living, your state independent living council, civic groups, uh, anyone, other entities that are like-minded and feel the same way about this issue as the council does. Next slide, please. And then at the top of the ladder is formal advocacy. So approved policy positions. Again, most councils have those already. They may take the form of legislative priorities uh, or just in general policy positions. So make sure that those approvals are in place and it lines up and kind of gives you authorization to engage at this level. You may provide legislative testimony. Uh, if you do that, I think, or at least we try to have self-advocates and leaders with lived experience do the testifying. Their stories are more powerful than if I go and start advocating for something. But if you hear from advocates about how this issue impacts their lives or may impact their lives, it's more powerful. and more likely to get the result you want. And then finally, an advocacy campaign. This would involve a coordinated effort with hopefully, again, the DD network and other uh, collaborators uh, that you want to meet with, fine tune your messaging, get everyone on the same page, and kind of develop a plan for what your campaign would look like, whether that's, again, phone calls, educational materials, public awareness, whatever the campaign, uh, whatever form it takes, it's important to get the messaging concise and agreed upon so that when you do engage at that level, everyone is in agreement and saying the same thing to the policymakers. So that's the engagement ladder and goes from 1 to 5, 1 being the least formal, 5 being the most formal. So next slide, please. And then one last recommendation is just to scale your engagement up or down as needed. Sometimes issues are a really hot topic, then they're not anymore. So again, these are tools to be used by uh, your councils, and you don't have to use them, but you may. I think there's some excellent uh, uh, well, if you take the time to use it, then you've got documentation that you really looked at all of the issues on all sides of a particular issue. And then again, scale your engagement up or down as needed, depending on the issue and what your resources allow and what your council decides to do.
And
Next
this is
slide, please.
awesome. If I could chime in real quick, I think these
Yes.
resources are really great for thinking about disability issues aren't always black and white. I think sometimes people think like, oh, this is an absolute, like we're gonna support this issue, but like different people within the community may have different views or on your council. And so this kind of helps you break down that policy issue with your council members to think about, is this something that we all agree on that we should be taking a stance on? Or maybe there's some disagreement and this need maybe isn't something we're going to formally engage in. So just help, these are just really great, I would argue, really great tools, and I'm really excited to use them moving forward.
Yes, thank you. I agree. All right. Last, any questions or thoughts about these tools or what we've presented so far? Any in the chat? No?
Shout out to Amy and
All right.
Cheryl for their work on these. It was
Yes.
ultimately them. So if you do have questions after this session, probably recommend you reach out to them versus Johnny and I, but we would be happy to answer any questions as well.
Thank you so much, Johnny and Austin, for presenting this information to everybody. Again, the tools are available on our website, and I believe that Cheryl put a link in the chat so that you can get to them. If you have any questions or thoughts, feel free to put them in the comments. We're going to move on to our next part of this presentation, but we will have time at the end for additional questions as well. So when we were sort of putting this session together, we wanted to make sure that we kind of highlighted some examples of this in practice. But we are very aware that councils operate in a lot of different ways. And sometimes you have something that's kind of just a standard practice, but you don't necessarily have it written down anywhere. And sometimes you have a very formal written down process. So we are very happy to have the Kansas Council speak to you a little bit about their approach, which is not a standardized written down policy, but sort of how they approach these issues and make decisions on policy things that pop up. And then after the Kansas crew presents, we'll hear from West Virginia, who has a more formalized process that they actually just put into place formally. And so we'll get to hear about their how that kind of all came together as well. So Sarah, if you want to start them off.
Awesome. This is Allison. Sarah had to step away. We have an upcoming visit from the commissioner to the Sunflower State, so she had to hop off for a quick call. But I hope you don't mind. It's going to be myself, Allison McCain. I'm the deputy director from the Kansas Council on Developmental Disabilities, and I'm joined by our fantastic vice chair, Josh.
Hi, everybody. I'm Josh Alters, and I've been with the council for 8 years and excited to be here today.
Thank you, Josh. And I believe our chair, Carrie Padding, is also here.
I am, yeah. Hi, guys. This is Carrie Padding. I live in Andover, Kansas. I've been on the council for about 5 years and a chair for the last couple of years. So happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you. Next slide. Okay, so those were some fantastic resources that were just shared, and we're really excited to kind of share with you all how we as a council kind of operate and address some of the legislative issues that come up during our very short whack-a-mole legislative sessions, as you will. So our mission is really to empower individuals with IDD in their families and caregivers to lead systems change and to advocate for inclusive, accessible, integrated communities where everyone belongs and thrives. And so having this mission carry throughout our legislative priorities is very impactful. We are 50% staffed by individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So we really lead with lived experience and with our council members' experience as well. Next slide. And I'm going to let Josh kind of talk about our process for engaging the council on ongoing and emerging state policy issues.
Thanks, Allison. So our process for engaging council on ongoing and emerging state policy issues. So we have quarterly council meetings that are held across the whole state of Kansas. Quarter 4 council meeting, it involves a robust legislative issue discussion and preview. And then we have an alignment with KCDD 5-year plan and the NACDD priorities. And then we have the wait list, waiver, and workforce campaign, which was approved in our strategic plan. And then we have monthly executive committees with policy and programming updates via our staff. And in this picture that we are showing, we have a staff member. Her name is Lola, and she is standing right next to our wonderful governor, Laura Kelly, and just talking about the bill that was passed that Lola worked hard on. So, Allison, I'll let you take it away.
Awesome. Yeah. So as Josh said, we really utilize our Q4 council meeting, which is normally in November, to really hear from our council members on what we should be focused on in the upcoming legislative session. And then we use those monthly executive committees to really lean on our executive committee to kind of help us navigate emerging issues that happen during the legislative session. I'm sure, as many of you know, sometimes things come up and you don't always have that direct communication with your entire council. So being able to communicate with our executive committee on how we want to respond and engage is really important. And Carrie, did you have anything you wanted to add on kind of the council process?
No, I think you really hit the nail on the head. I think the great thing about our council is that everybody is incredibly engaged. So even if something comes up and there's a short turnaround time, our council members are able to get together and meet, and we're really try to be flexible with everybody's calendars, even though we're across the state from each other.
Awesome. Next slide. Okay. So like I said, we really lead with lived experience. So as many of you councils, we host a day at the Capitol where we really bring together Kansans with IDD and their family members to share their experiences and make their voices heard. We schedule one-on-one meetings with them and their legislators, and we have this really incredible Advocacy 101 session before the day starts, which is led by our staff member, Lola Cornell, who's our advocacy coordinator and also an individual with lived experience. And she really empowers the self advocates in the room to kind of learn how to engage with their policymakers and how they can share their story in a way that aligns with an advocacy action that aligns with kind of our strategic plan as well. Of course, we encourage folks to talk about whatever they are passionate about, but we do kind of assist them with plain language briefing packets where we provide kind of clear background and practical talking points that they can use for meaningful legislative meetings. And then we also host Advocacy 101 trainings beforehand, before our day at the Capitol, virtually, where folks can attend. They can learn things like what to wear to the Capitol. We don't want someone wearing super tall high heels and having to run around the Capitol for their meetings. We kind of help them kind of get comfortable with how they're going to engage with policymakers, what to expect. Sometimes, meetings can be anywhere from 5 minutes walking through the hallway or 10 minutes in their office. And then we talk about kind of the current legislative issues that we're focused on that year. And we're rapidly growing this day at the Capitol. Last year, we had over 180 attendees. We outgrew our space. We ended up having to last minute change our space to be able to accommodate this great attendee population. So in this picture, you can see it's a wide view of just half the room, actually, at our advocacy training before our day at the Capitol. And advocates are sitting around round tables, listening to information on key policy priorities. Next slide. Okay, so like I said, 50% of our staff are individuals with IDD. So nothing about us without us. That's something that we really pride ourselves in saying and leading by example. Testimony is pretty much led by people with lived experience. Lola and Whit are very, very powerful speakers. I don't know if any of you have ever had the chance to listen to them, but they do way better than I could providing testimony. So it's always important that we have someone with lived experience really getting up there and sharing their story in front of the legislators. We also have our council members who we really support in them providing testimony as well. So you can see on the bottom left is one of our fantastic council members, Ricky, and he is there providing testimony on behalf of a bill. And then on the right-hand side, we have Lola and Whit, who are there providing testimony at kind of our home and community-based services oversight committee, just really sharing their story and their experience. Next slide. Okay, I guess that's all I have. I do have my email and Sarah's email up there if you have any questions. Josh or Carrie, is there anything you wanted to add? No?
Nope, you did it. Good job, Allison.
Awesome. Any questions? I don't know if it's appropriate time for questions.
Yeah, it's a great time. If anybody has any questions, feel free to come off mute and ask the question or put something in the chat.
Have you had issues on transportation in your council before? Because I know New Hampshire, we're strictly trying to make sure transportation, because right now we're trying to hopefully sometime down the road get a train from Nashville all the way up to Manchester Airport and beyond. Hopefully.
Wow, that's awesome. Are you talking about like a issue of transportation or transportation to the Capitol?
Yes, transportation indirect.
Okay, I don't think I'm allowed to talk about specific issues, but that's fantastic that you're sharing your story, Scott, and able to kind of lead that with your testimony.
Any other questions? And I will say, Scott, we're not discussing particular policy issues today, but pretty much every state and territory has a transportation issue. All right. Thank you so much, Allison, Carrie, Josh, Sarah, if you managed to make it back on, for presenting. And if anybody thinks of any questions for them, feel free to put it in the chat. But for now, we'll move on and we'll hear from Tina Wiseman with West Virginia.
Thank you, Amy. And you can go ahead and skip to the next slide. So the council has recently, I'm Tina Wiseman from West Virginia. We have recently put into place, kind of formalized our longstanding informal unwritten process. We had a lot of different documents that have been created over the years to help guide the council to make good, sound public policy decisions. And last October, the council voted to formalize this process and to establish a public policy committee. And we're in the process of doing all that right now. And we do have a tool that we use, and next slide, that we have used recently. And some of the key considerations that we try to have currently it's the executive committee that leads this process for the council, either through executive committee and then taking a decision to the council for a formal vote, or the executive committee leads the process at the council meeting for the whole body. But some key considerations, to support council members just to make good, sound public policy decisions and to make sure that we're staying on topic, we're staying on things that affect people with developmental disabilities, and we're not straying from our mission. An internal alignment to ensure that decisions are consistent with our council's mission, not just the mission, but our public policy statements, our state plan. That way we can show consistency, we can show that we really aren't working outside of those things that have already been defined by the council. Timing, just ensure that action is taken during the right time to maximize our outcomes. If we've kind of, if things are if we know things are happening in the future, you really need to make sure that timing of when you start your process, that you start it soon enough, that you have enough time to do that advocacy and education that's needed. Transparency is one of the reasons we decided to the council decided to formalize this process was we wanted to make sure that we were transparent and a clear documented decision-making process so we could continue to build that trust to ensure the council maintains its integrity and credibility. The scope, of course, is to ensure advocacy and education is the focus and not lobbying. And I think Cheryl already did a great job of explaining that at the beginning, and you'll see, when we finalize the tool is still in process to be finalized, but I will send that out to folks through the NACDD network, and you'll see that we focus advocacy and education on everything because we want to make sure we don't stray into lobbying. Next slide. So, as I said, just our decision-making process is define the issue and audience. There's kind of three main components. Defining the issue and audience, is it mission relevant, and then what action needs to be taken. Next slide. So when we look at defining the issue and the audience, what is that issue? Is it a problem? Is it a concern? Is it causing harm to people? Just what is the issue? Very concretely, very objectively. And then is in the hopes to try to take some of the emotion out of it. Because we know sometimes when we talk about policy decisions and things that are happening in our state or just across the country, that emotion can kind of drive things that we just really want to stay objective on. Is this an ongoing issue, a new issue, concerns about a future issue? Just, kind of back to that timing. Who is our target audience for this advocacy and education that we're going to do on our defined topic? And really, it's not just looking at the legislature, but is it what's our direct audience? What's maybe an indirect audience? And we're really focusing, I think, in the past couple of years, we've really focused more of our public policy effort to the general public, really trying to educate more people that are not currently engaged in developmental disability public policy. So is this, and also looking at, is this an issue the council has provided advocacy and education on in the past? How long ago did it work? And if it did, what worked? So we can maybe look back to what we did previously and not have to recreate the wheel, so to speak. Next slide. So the second part is really two main questions, and both have to be answered yes to move on. So if the Public Policy Committee kind of gets to this stage and they've defined our audience, they defined the issue, and they've looked at those things, and let's say it's fits our mission, but it's not within our current public policy priorities. And if we didn't answer both those questions, yes, then we really need to take a hard look at do we move forward? And our public policy priorities are pretty broad categories. We have civil rights, self-determination, home and community supports, direct care workforce, healthcare, education, employment, and access to community living. So we have a real wide range of topics that so far we haven't felt like we've missed something, that there's a box to put stuff in when a topic comes up. Next slide. So step 3 really is the action, and it's looking at some targeted questions to understand who else is working on the issue, do we have any opposition, and those types of things. So it will lead us into developing what tools we're going to use. So we don't expect, and we haven't used all these questions for every public policy issue we tackle. Usually we have the executive committee, it'll now be the public policy committee, but they would identify the questions that they feel are most appropriate. And some of these are really quick answers, like what groups are working in support of the issue. I mean, it's not, let's do a big research project, but let's just kind of quickly name, is it the P&A? Is it RU said? Those types of things. And then what groups are working in opposition to the issue? And one question I received from a council member was, well, does this mean that if you have people in opposition that we wouldn't work on a particular public policy issue? And no, that is not the case. It is just, I think it's always good to know who you can rely on for support and who you won't be able to rely on for support, and who might actually work in opposition of some of the advocacy and education you're going to do. And then what's the best role for the council? This is, will we be taking the direct lead? Is this an issue that, that we're going to be the ones that take the lead on strategy and action? Are we going to support the roles of our allies and possibly put some resources towards it? Or are we going to be more of a cheerleader role where we're kind of boosting or amplifying the message that someone else has already put out? So it's really to look at what is the best role for the council. And I think this next question, what is the risk of not taking action, is really important, because I think it really will direct your action as far as, if the risk of not taking action is people will be harmed, then you know that that's a serious issue that really needs immediate and strong advocacy. And then looking at what tools will work best, just based on prior experience, based on prior public policy actions that we've taken. And who will provide the advocacy education on this issue? So this is looking at, and it's most likely going to be a mix. So is it going to be council members? Is it going to be our members with lived experience? Is it going to be additional people that are leaders of lived experience that support the council, but they might not be actual members, but they come to our trainings, they come to things that we sponsor. Is it the executive committee or is it the public policy committee? Is it going to be staff? And typically it's a combination of all, because as staff, we're here to support council members. So it's, and it also probably has a lot to do with how quickly you need to get the information out there. Unfortunately, during our legislative session, we don't have a lot of lead-in time. We don't have a lot of time to know when a bill is going to be up on the agenda because there's no policy or law that says that a Senate or a House committee has to put something on the agenda for 24 hours so you could kind of mobilize the troops. You might have an hour notice. And like most rural states, it's not easy to get from point A to point B quickly in West Virginia. So sometimes it is the staff running over to do something because you just can't get other people there at the time. And then what does success look like? How will we know that we have made an impact? How will we know that our work really made a difference in the lives of people with developmental disabilities in West Virginia? And then lastly, how do we assess progress? How do we adapt as needed? So just looking at relying on our public policy committee to be the ones that are assessing progress and making sure that those tweaks and changes are made to adapt as needed. And I don't know if I have anything else or if that's my last slide. So, but as I said in the beginning, we're just really at the beginning stages of formalizing this process. And it's been a really good learning experience for everyone. And I think it's going to serve us well in the future.
Thank you so much, Tina, for presenting. I will say that I've had an opportunity to look at West Virginia's, I'll call it a checklist, although that's not exactly what it is, but it is like Tina described, it's quite thorough. It's, it's really comprehensive. It's a well laid out way to sort of look at, how do we look at what's important to us at this time, and how do we decide at what level do we need to engage? So it was a really good it's a really good tool for West Virginia, and so I'm very happy that y'all were able to formalize a process and get that together.
Thank you.
So we wanted to leave an ample amount of time at the end of this session to sort of give everybody an opportunity to share information with each other. We were able to hear from two councils about sort of how they kind of operationalize how they make this decision on prioritizing policy initiatives. But we know there are a lot of different ways to do this. So we would love to hear from some of you about what does your council do? How do you kind of make these decisions? Do you have a formal process? Do you have tools that you already use? Or is it even an informal process that you kind of want to share with people? We'd love to hear about it. Anybody want to be brave enough to share first?
So this is Rachel from Maine, and I guess I just wanted to share that one of the most important tools that we have with identifying important policies is collaborative legislative calls with the statewide self-advocacy organization. Since COVID, the self-advocacy organization like all of us, just did really, really well with transitioning to meeting online, at least for some topics, and legislation, and policy lends itself really well to that. And there's just a core group of people who are really passionate about change. And it's just been, I think, for the council, an important, and like an important place. These, I guess these calls started out like sitting in our office, and now they sit in the self advocates office because, you know, it's issues that are impacting them. So, I don't know. There's not a real, I don't you typically because I think because our for legislative policy, well, really, it's not quite as it doesn't move quite as quickly as I'm hearing that some states are experiencing. It sounds like Tina, like things are like, like get down there this afternoon because this is happening, and there's some rules about that here. So there's a little bit more time to help people get prepared. But that is just I don't know, like the work that that the self advocates have done around marriage equality here is really astounding, and it is definitely not something that that the council was specifically identifying as a major as a major issue. So anyway, that's kind of a tool that I don't know if it's a tool or a strategy or a relationship that that's really helpful. But it's been really it's really been kind of inspiring to watch it unfold in the last 5 years or so.
Thanks, Rachel. And I think that that is a good reminder as, as councils, we definitely depend on the relationships that we have built with other entities. And sometimes that does help guide. Sometimes it just helps to alert you to something that's coming up, policy wise, that maybe the council wasn't anticipating. But yeah, always good to get indicators from the people that you partner with about, what's happening and how important it is to people. So that's a really good one. Does anybody else want to talk about what they do in their state? Nia?
Yeah, hi everyone. I can share a couple of slides if that's okay on my screen. We've been putting together a few PowerPoint slides for our next board meeting that will be focusing on work planning. And so I actually already have a couple of slides that we're just walking our board members through considerations that we've been talking about internally as staff and that we want them to consider as they review our work plan activities for the coming year. So I don't know if y'all can see that. You see that now? Okay. So this is a slide that we've already shown them in past board meetings as we were fleshing out goals and objectives. And these were considerations we asked them to take into account. And a lot of these, I think were reflected in some of the discussion today, like alignment with our purpose and strategies, alignment with the public input we collected. And we had this triangle that just kind of capture the filtering of items through that triangle. And then the slide that's new for them that we'll be showing this time is just some additional considerations that we've had as staff when it comes to sorting out the activities more. So resources, environment, recent developments, either in terms of things other organizations are doing or recent policy changes, and then sequencing considerations. So I think a lot of that, again, aligns with what you guys have been hearing, but just wanted to share that in case it's helpful for anyone.
Great. Thank you so much. I love that you were prepared with slides. That's just amazing. Daintry?
Yeah, I just like to share with you something we've been doing. This was our second or third year. with our legislative process is we have a mock hearing with legislators. They set up, it looks like an actual hearing. So our advocates will come in, and so it gives them opportunity, and board members as well, an opportunity to present, to testify on bills ahead of time. So they get to learn how to do that, meet their legislature. And it's really helped. We do it before the session starts. And then we'll do it during session, during our Day at the Capitol event for DD Awareness Month. And it gives us an opportunity to educate the legislators on what's important to our advocates, as well as the advocates to give their lived experiences. And again, it's a mock hearing, so it's a good practice, and it's been very impactful. And we'll hear legislators talking about in the halls for weeks after. So that was something really great that I think that we've been doing. Just wanted to share that's I think a low-hanging fruit for some states to do that. So you just get a champion legislator help you out. It's been pretty fun. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great, Daintree. That's definitely a wonderful way to help people prepare for providing testimony if they're interested in learning how to do that. Anybody else want to talk about what their council does or considerations that they keep in mind when they're making decisions about how to respond to an upcoming policy issue?
I have a couple things that I think might be helpful. I'm in Texas, and I'm the public policy chair for the Texas Council on Developmental Disabilities. One thing that we've found that is successful is that not there's not situations where members as big as Texas is can always get to the Capitol. And so if a staff member from the public policy team is able to get a quote or have them share a story um, within whatever policy issue that they're testifying on, at least they get the benefit of hearing our voice, even if we can't be there in person. Um, we have, based on the staff that I've seen, kind of a bigger council, but Texas is a lot bigger. So we have people from all over the state. So it's not always easy to get there because of transportation issues and things like that. The other thing that we did for the first time last year was we actually have a day that we spend at the Capitol as one of our quarterly meetings, and we set up kind of a break room of sorts and offered legislators to kind of stop by and talk to our council members and the public policy staff, just in general about issues that they felt like that were important, and that seemed to go pretty well because obviously, not everybody can see, you can't always see everybody that you want to see during a 3 or 4 hour period. So if the legislators were willing to come by and they learned a lot about disability issues that they weren't aware of before, just by sitting down with somebody that may or may not be their constituent. So that's been helpful too. I think we're thinking about employing that again this year at our upcoming legislative session.
Thanks for sharing that, Angie. That is a really great, a really interesting idea. And if you actually have some legislators who take you up on it and are willing to spend some time meeting some people and hearing about what's important to them, that's a really great way to make those connections. So thanks for sharing that.
Of course, thank you.
Christina, and while you're talking, I'm going to launch the poll for everybody. Don't take it as I'm trying to stop the flow of conversation. I'm just trying to get people to answer my poll. Christina?
Totally. That's more than okay. Thanks, Amy. And hi, everyone. My name's Christina. I'm the policy director for Colorado's DD Council. I apologize about not being on camera. My camera does not work, but I wanted to share, kind of following up what Daintree was saying about what we're doing here in Colorado. We also do a Disability Rights Advocacy Day at the Capitol that we work with our statewide disability coalitions of all different disability groups. This year we brought around 600 people to the Capitol, which was really amazing to see. We also do our DD Council specific day at the Capitol, where we bring our Legislative and Public Policy Committee, which has around 15 council members as a part of it, to the Capitol to meet with legislators. That policy committee also meets bi-weekly, if not more, during the session. So we're consistently talking about policy, we're tracking policy. And so I just wanted to share that. If your council does not have a policy committee, it is my favorite thing. I definitely recommend. I'm also going to put into the chat our state's policy tracker. This is a spreadsheet that our council members all have access to, and we update it every single day, multiple times a day, about where our bills are, what's going on, what's the latest update. And so just wanted to share that as well. So that's going to go into the chat.
Great. Thank you, Christina. Tracking policy is something that I know a lot of councils do during their legislative session as a way to kind of help their council members, for sure, keep on top of what issues are of importance to the community. And some councils make those public so that other people can take a look at it as well. Johnny.
Hey, thanks, Amy. Totally unrelated to what we're doing. I just wanted to acknowledge this Sunday is an important day, and I wish all the mothers on this call a happy Mother's Day.
Oh, well, thanks.
It's not easy being a mom. Otherwise, dads would do it. So
thank you very
anyway,
much.
Happy Mother's Day.
Any other councils or anybody else have anything they want to share? Brent.
Yeah, nothing to share other than a great deal of gratitude. These sessions have been tremendous, and the planning committee, who understood, I think, the prevailing issues and things that impact us. I think it was just spot on in terms of the topics, the presentations. So, in addition to Cheryl and Amy, thank you so much for leading, but also the committee and everyone that presented. I've just been enlightened by many of the presentations, so very appreciative.
Well, thank you very much, Brent. But what a wonderful point. Our planning committee is excellent. They bring it every year. It's different people in the committee every year, but every year they come in ready to help plan a great training and technical assistance institute for the councils, and always try to bring the topics that are, real current that people want to hear about at this time. So we definitely appreciate all of their hard work.
Yeah, and we do want to make sure you all know where to find the resources. Amy, there is a process to getting the recordings edited and up on the website, but Amy has already posted all of the written resources and all of the engagement ladder and the 8 filters. It is available on the itechhelp.org website. And if you just go to click index, just to make it easy, it'll be the first posting. It'll be the 2026 Institute resources and recordings. And we're especially interested, and I just want to give you a heads up. This year, we tried to provide a lot of supplemental resources on the topics that were presented. And there will be a broader survey question on the big TA Institute survey that ask, are those helpful to you? Of course, we're always striving to see what we can do to be helpful and to give you tools and resources that you think would be helpful. And so just saying, oh, thanks, Kristen Harvey. It was great. And I agree. I love hearing about council work. I love hearing about how you put your individual spins on it. And we would not be doing this work without all of your hard work and effort. The energy your council members put into making your councils successful is amazing. So keep supporting them. Council members, thank you so much for all of your work. And just, you know, anything you need, anything you think we can do to support you all as members and staff, let us know. That is part of what we do. Our job is to listen and figure out solutions so that you can impact your state, your territory, and your developmental disability communities. Amy?
If is there anybody else? I'm gonna give one final call, just see if there's anybody else who wants to share. And if not, we
Oh, Amy, this is Sarah. I just want to thank you for guiding us through all these 6 sessions, and of course Cheryl as well. Thank you to the planning committee, as it was said, and thank you to all of the presenters. So there's a lot of behind the scenes that goes on to make this a success every year, and so just appreciate it.